I don't know how locked in you've been into these games. I know I have been because
Yeah.
I'm a sicko. So my question to you would be is, have you noticed Ausar Thompson's 3-point shot getting better?
I've noticed it. I've taken great notice of it because I'm all in on Ausar, man. Like what I said earlier, I want Ausar on every team. I don't care who I got, what my roster construction looks like. I will find a way to make a player that defends like that, that has the physical tools and the young but growing basketball mind that I think he has. I'll take that every day of the week on every team. I say it all the time. If you put him in Christian Brown's shoes last year, like with Denver, with all those weapons, oh my God, would Ausar be just absolutely like crushing in Denver right now? Like he's such an additive player. But so yeah, I noticed the shot getting better because every time he hits a three, I get excited. Every time, like, 16%, 17%, 18%. Like I know it's terrible 3-point shooting percentage, but I want him to be good so bad because I think that him at his full potential is an otherworldly player. So I've noticed it getting better. Again, I don't think long term he has a 3-point shot. I don't. I know people want to bring up that overtime stretch and it was the playoffs, right, where he shot 40%, I believe it was, from three.
Mm-hmm.
I know he shot very well from three. And people want to bring up that, but I'm never expecting him to be 40% or close to that. I'm honestly, if he gets to 32%, I'm happy. I'm happy.
Well, I'm glad you said 32%. So I did some digging on the numbers. Now, this is just a 5-game sample size since he's been getting more consistent minutes under Monty. So almost 10 and a half points a game, which, that's pretty solid for a rookie.
Yeah.
Whether you ask Gilbert Arenas that or not, it's pretty solid. Yeah. He's shooting 33% from three and 46.3% from the field. So his season average was around 15%. He's doubled that over the last 5 games. Now, 5 games is an extremely small sample size for Ausar. But the one thing I will say about him is Ausar to me is one of those gym rats that I would buy stock in, of that 3-point shot translating to the next level, because I'm not saying he's going to be like 40% from three throughout his career at any time. But if he can be anywhere from, 33, 35% from three and have that foot speed that he have that acceleration, that burst, being able to guard multiple positions, being a nightmare in transition. This is a long-term 3-and-D wing that's going to be in your starting lineup for years to come. I've noticed it a little bit where the teams are daring him to shoot, and he's shooting more, and the ball's going in. So I think that's just a testament of him, putting in the work and putting in the time, which I think a lot of people, when they saw the 3-point percentage, they're like, does he even practice it? Oh, he practices it. It's just hasn't really gone in. But, over the past couple of weeks, you've kind of seen an uptick in percentage. And I think that's something that, Pistons fans should pay attention to. I mean, he's putting in the work each and every day. I think sometimes fans, when they look at the box scores, if they look at the stats, like, oh, this guy doesn't practice it. One thing I'll say, him and Jaden Ivey, to me, are probably the 2 biggest workhorses that I've seen pregame. They're the first 2 out there. They're out there 2 hours before tip-off, just working on their craft, working on their shot.
My question to you, I'm glad you brought up Ivy, because that's what I wanted to ask, is that obviously it's a hot streak for Ausar. Ivy had a hot streak in, what was it, January, I think it was, when he was like lights out and he made like 17 threes in a row or something like that. Like Ivy, and again, it's too early to say this is going to be a thing, but I just want to ask you from your vantage point of watching these games, because I'm not sure where I'm at with it. Do you think either of these guys are going to be streaky shooters, or do you think they're going to stabilize at a certain point, whether that's low or high? But are they going to be someone where you're like, okay, I'm confident in this kind of performance that I'm going to get from them shooting most nights? Or do you think that they're going to be, because there are streaky shooters in the league, like J.R. Smith was a great streaky shooter,
Yeah. I think that's such a great question. I've had this conversation with other people before. Like, is Ausar Thompson going to be a Alpha Camino? Or if you guys know who that is, he was a really good defender.
That's the player I liked.
His 3-point shot just never developed. Is Ausar going to be a Alpha Camino? Or I've even mentioned like a Andre Roberson. Is he going to be that type of archetype where he can shut down any player in the NBA? His defense just speaks for itself. Or could he have that Jimmy Butler, Kawhi Leonard type of transformation where they turn into a two-way superstar? Like, could Ausar turn into that? And I think I would bank on Ausar turning into the two-way superstar. And I know that sounds crazy because he's a rookie. And, like, I think just the way he prepares himself, just the way he thinks, because he's a very smart basketball player. Like, his IQ is off the charts.
Yes.
I would bank on him developing a shot. I would bank on him turning into that type of archetype that so many NBA teams want. They want those two-way small forwards that can defend and hit a shot from anywhere on the court. I think Ausar can turn into that. It's just really early to tell, but I see the work ethic, and I see the potential there with him. As for Ivy, that's such a great question. I don't know. Could Ivy, I know you had mentioned like J.R. Smith because he's such a streaky shooter. I don't know if Ivy could like be a 38, 40% 3-point shooter throughout his career, because you mentioned it earlier. It's a small sample size.
Yeah.
With him. And his role, if you think about it, last year, he was the lead point guard. This year, he's maybe the second option next to Cade Cunningham. So his role has changed in his first 2 years in the league. I think once he has more of a defined role, a consistent role, consistent minutes of what's expected out of him, I could probably give you an answer. As of right now, I just don't know. Just because, his role, year one, you're going to be the lead guard. You're going to be the point guard. This year, you'll be coming off the bench as a sixth man. Oh, no, we're going to change that now. You're going to be next to Cade Cunningham. Oh, yeah, you're going to be the second option next to Cade. I think once he gets more of a defined role and a consistent role, we might be able to kind of zero in what type of player he could possibly be.
Yeah, that's a totally fair point. That's where I also landed with it, is that, again, to go back to Cade and Ivy backcourt, some things are just too early to tell. And Ausar, shout out to my boy Josh. We were talking about it before the draft, and he was like, this dude's ceiling is Scottie Pippen. Like, Ausar can be that. Like, he can be otherworldly if he reaches his full potential. That's why when people were saying you probably can't keep all four of the core guys, who would you keep? Who wouldn't you? Who would you get rid of? Like, Ausar is one I can't move off of. And maybe I'll end up being wrong, like you said. Maybe he'll be Al-Farouq Aminu, where it's like I was wrong. But if he gets it, which I think he does, from everything you said, I've heard the same things, and I see the same things in the way he approaches the game. I think he's a very safe bet. So I think you're right. More consistent playing time, better roster construction. These things I think will kind of stabilize them. It's just a question of what's their stabilized percent going to be. Is it going to be 32? Is it going to be 35? Is it going to be for Ivy 38, or is it going to be 35? Like, what are these percentages actually going to land at? But I do think you're right. They'll be more consistent. But everybody goes through shooting stretches. Like, that's just the name of the game. So I think there are always going to be streaks, but I think Ausar and Ivy will be less streaky as time goes on.
Yeah, when I watch Ausar sometimes, and I'll just say this, and then we can move on to the next topic, is sometimes he will just hit these random post fadeaway jumpers that I'm not expecting, and I look at him and I'm like, man, he just looked like Kawhi Leonard. Like, what the hell is that? Like, it'll catch me completely off guard because he'll be in the post and I'll kind of like do a jab step, back down, and then just like hit like this wild, crazy contested jump shot. And I was like, dude, where the hell did that come from? There's just so much untapped raw potential with him where I would buy stock on Ausar Thompson right now.
Yeah, I'm going.
Both the Thompson twins, I think, have such a high ceiling, and if they develop, man, they're going to be nightmare 3-and-D wings for years to come, man.
Yeah.
Like, I would not want to be guarded by a Thompson twin.
No.